Today's episode of Cooking with Napdog is all about chili. It's prompted by a friend of mine named Atse and his wife Sonia, who live in Canada now. They're Macedonian. And as you may or may not know, chili is an American food, not Mexican or Hispanic, but it's an American concoction. Its roots are driven by European ingredients such as Spanish or Italian type cooking of sauces, but it's purely American. Yeah. Anyway, started off is we'll go with the basic ingredients. Pound, half kilo, approximate, ground beef. If you can get it once ground, better. A big onion. I prefer red. About the size of a baseball or bigger. 2 tablespoons of chili powder. And chili powder, not chili, which in Europe chili is red pepper or cayenne pepper. It's a consistency of flour or dust. What you want is chili powder, which is the consistency more like cornmeal. A can of beans. Red kidney beans, light, I prefer. Some people prefer dark, I do not. Or pinto beans. 2 cans of tomatoes, whatever kind of tomatoes you like. I prefer the Palermo ones or the Romos, the ones that are plum shaped. Sauce up better. A couple peppers, not bell peppers. Stay away from bell peppers. Those are those big squaw ones. Get something kind of long, green. I prefer them with a little heat, and they're mostly for flavor. A teaspoon of cumin. Some people in the States may or may not use cumin, but it amplifies the chili powder taste. It's, in my opinion, essential. Black pepper, paprika powder. I like to use a little white pepper too. It's kind of up to you. Right now I'm just trying to go through the basics. So if you're first time trying to make chili, here you go. Pound of hamburger, 2 cans of tomatoes, 1 can of either pinto beans or light kidney beans, an onion, chili powder, 2 tablespoons. Don't be stingy. Cumin, teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. And then you have to put some kind of corn flour in it, either white corn flour or you could use probably a half teaspoon of cornstarch, but stay with corn flour or white corn flour, about a teaspoon, teaspoon and a half. Mix all that, and salt of course, and pepper, but mix all that beforehand in a little glass or cup and have the consistency going as far as it being mixed. What you're going to do first is brown your hamburger. Put it in your big pot. If you can score a cast iron pot, sweet. Cast iron pots are the best for slow, long cooking, and they add a little iron flavor, taste, like a salty, metally taste. It's fantastic. If not, so be it. In the same pot that you're going to cook everything in, first brown the hamburger. And what I like to do is put like a half cup of water in there, keep the lid on it, get it all brown, steamy. And some people in the States do this, some do not. I drain the fat. Of course you drain the fat, but I drain it. And I put hot water in it and drain it extra. And then once it's brown and drained, I put about a 1/4 cup of olive oil in the mix there, so that you still get some of the fat taste, but without the harmful fat. It's low fat chili. And then you put that back on the heat, and you throw in your chopped onions, your chopped peppers. Hold off on the tomatoes and whatever seasonings you got. Throw them in there. Stir it around, get it good and sizzling, where the peppers and the onions are starting to get a little soft, and keep it hot, the pan hot. Then you throw in your tomatoes, stir that around, put the lid on it for about 15-20 minutes. on high. And it's going to start watering up a little bit, and that's great. Take the lid off. Throw in about a quart liter of water. I like to throw in some beer, like maybe 2-3 beers. You can do whatever you want to, but let's stick to the basics. Water. Put in about a liter of water, and then put the lid back on it, bring it to a boil. Now let it boil for about half hour. Open the lid, stir it around, and reduce the heat. Put the lid back on, and let it simmer for about a half hour or so, more. Okay, after that, that's your basic concoction. And then you salt and heat it, you know, with whatever hot peppers you want, or hot pepper powder, or whatever you want to put in to make it a little stanky. That's up to you. But that's the basics. Now, what you want to do is continue to low boil, to simmer, this big pot of concoction for, I like to say, at least 2 hours at a low boil. You want everything to get soft and the water to evaporate a little bit and reduce. And what that's going to do is it's going to make everything mixed together, and sauce-wise, it's like a big gravy. Anywho, that's about it for you, I'd say. That's your basic components. Now, the great thing about chili is it's a man food. It's manly. Men usually make it. Men enjoy it. You can do 2-day chili. You can do in a crock pot. You can take what you just made after the first 45 minutes, put it in a crock pot for like 36 hours on low. Ooh. You know, and then you got your different ingredients you can put in, or to highlight it. For those of you out there in America putting corn in chili, stop. Corn has no business in chili. The big yellow chunks in there just is not aesthetically pleasing. And again, why it's a manly food is because you can get creative, and that's why it's so popular, I think, in the States, because every person's got their chili recipe. Oh, my chili's this, my chili's that. And most people get into bragging contests over the amount of heat in it. It's not about how hot and spicy it is. It's about flavor and about your personal taste and what you put into it. And no two chilies are the same. If you go into the Cincinnati area and, like, say, the commercial one, like Skyline Chili or Gold Star, I don't like Gold Star, but Skyline, that was actually Macedonian and Greek immigrants that started that in the 1930s or something like that, 20s. And the reason it's a little different is they put cinnamon and a little bit of nutmeg in it, possibly a dash of clove, but it definitely has a more Mediterranean taste to it. It's basically a bolognese that they tweaked it, would put some beans in it and made chili. But it's one of the most commercially successful and popular in the United States is Skyline. And the Southwest states, they kept it more local and personal, and whatever ingredients were immediately available is what they put in it. Different types of peppers, Anaheims, Chipotles, chiles, that sort of thing. Again, it's all to your personal taste and desire. My father, for example, used to like to put mushrooms in it, canned mushrooms, chopped, chunky. Threw it in there with them. Now, mushrooms are great because they absorb whatever you put them in. They're a sponge. They don't really have so much their own flavor. So if you got a nice base going, they're going to absorb all the taste of that pot. And so when you bite into a mushroom, it's like having extra meat in it. You know, and we used to call it Irish beef or Irish meat was mushrooms because it's cheap. Certainly cheaper than beef, but it's cheap and it takes up space and it fills you up. Now, I have several different things I do, and I never usually make it the same twice. One thing is, though, you have to have your base. If you're in the States or in Canada, you should be able to go to the supermarket and find these little packages that says something like chili, and they will give you the basic starter thing. They usually say like 2 cans of tomato, can of beans, pound of ground beef, and add this flavor packet and half a liter of water, and then let it boil for an hour, and it's done. those packets are great for a base, just to use. If you want to do it completely from scratch, just like I said, then you got your different types of chili. Like chili fries, chili dogs, they usually don't put beans in it, but it has like a gravy consistency that is so nice. And what I've found, one of my secrets is I'll put a can of pinto beans, and then I'll put a can of refried beans in there and let it dissolve into the mix, and you get this lovely, lovely consistency that you could put on French fries, hot dogs, whatever. Most people don't like those big ass dark red kidney beans sticking out. Me too, I don't either. Other things, you can change your meats. If you have it available. By the way, the recipe I've given you, the basic one, is for maybe four people with like 1 or 2 servings each. It's not a very big. You usually make chili in a big pot, 4 or 5 hours of cooking, boiling, and it's even better the next day or 2 days later. And you can keep it warm in a crock pot and eat it continually. You put it in freezer bags, throw it in the freezer. It's great reheated. Throw it in the microwave, either in a freezer bag or in a bowl, however you like. It's awesome, and it's the gift that keeps on giving. The other ways are to serve it. You can either put it on French fries, something like that. In Southwest states and myself, I like to put it on rice. In the Midwest, they put it on spaghetti, the big number 7, broken half, boiled, made separately. You put the spaghetti on a plate, pour on your chili, and then they put some chopped and diced onions on top of it and cheese. Awesome. It's called like a 3-way, 4-way, 5-way, however you want to call it. What I like to do is, again, make rice off to the side. I put a big pile on a plate, and then onions beforehand I'll chop up and put some lemon or lime juice on it, and a little bit of salt and pepper and white vinegar on the onions. And I'll put that in the refrigerator in a sealed container. Let that sit for like an hour or 2. Then when it's time for serving, on that pile of rice on the plate, I'll ladle off 3, 4 big ladles of chili on top of there. Sprinkle some fresh grated cheddar cheese if you can find it, mozzarella, it doesn't matter, some kind of melty cheese, kashkaval. Put that on top, and then I'll put like 2, 3 big spoons of onions on top of that. And the onions aren't so stinky because of the vinegar and stuff takes some of the bite out of it. Awesome. Enjoy this as much as you will. Again, with meats in the States, I like it with, you start with some kind of hamburger, whether it's a ½ pound or a pound, and how big your pot's making. It's usually, I like to go 2 to 1. So if you're going a pound of hamburger, go ½ pound of pork, lean pork, or ½ pound of deer meat if you can get it. Goat is also good. I've had in chili. It's excellent. And again, you're going to boil this for a long time, and you're reducing. Every time you lift the lid, pour the water off the top. You want it to be the consistency when it's warm, hot on the stove. You want it to be kind of like consistency, not like soup, watery, but you want it to be kind of like a thin gravy. And if you can't get it from reduction, if you can't get it the right consistency, throw another teaspoon of corn flour in there, or regular flour if you want. And that also adds to the flavor. The taste of flour adds to the flavor. The way I kick mine up a notch is I use hot peppers and everything, but I also throw in pickled peppers and hot pepper powder, chili powder, bukovats, stuff like that. It thickens it, and it also gives it the taste. I also like to use sometimes some exotic spice, but that's just me, and I'm not giving up all my secrets. And what else is there about chili that's fantastic? Everything. Instead of cans, I always usually use fresh stuff. I'll get like 3 to 5 decent sized tomatoes, slice them up as small as I can, and boil them. The biggest thing is you got to reduce it to where it's all the same consistency, no big chunks of anything. What you don't want to do is have a lot of meat fat in it. Like I said, I take it and I strain it, run hot water through the meat, and if you just put that back in without adding some kind of fat or oil, it wouldn't taste right. So I add about a quarter cup of olive oil, and what that does is it gives you because your flavor sensors travel through fat, and what that does, it gives you the taste of the fat without the the overly bearing saturated fat and cholesterol and stuff that's bad for you. So in a way, it's like healthy chili, I guess. Also, I use at least 2 or 3 different types of peppers. One thing I can't stress enough: do not use green bell peppers in chili. At least by my taste, and most people I know, it gives it too much of a strong taste, and usually hiccups, indigestion, stuff like that. You can throw a little saffron in if you want in the last 15 minutes. A little dill is nice, just in the last 15-20 minutes before you serve it. Let that boil up in it. And like I said, make a giant ass pot of this stuff, and then you can put it in little containers, put it in the freezer. You can keep it at least 2 days, like warm or something, in a crock pot or whatnot. You can keep it in the refrigerator a week as long as you cover it. And reheating in the microwave doesn't destroy the taste of it like most foods do. If you reheat it, it's fantastic. So anyway, real quick, the basics are pound to a half kilo of ground beef, or whatever meat you like, but ground beef. 1 big onion, I prefer red, about the size of a baseball. Couple cloves of garlic, sure, why not? Press them, stomp them, throw them in there. 2 teaspoons of chili powder. It's going to be a dark red or kind of maroonish color. That teaspoon of cumin to a teaspoon and a half. 1 can of either light kidney beans or pinto beans. And then I also like to take it up a notch and say 1 can of refried beans. That's the stuff there. And a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half of some kind of corn flour, or you can use cornmeal. I don't recommend it, but corn flour, white corn flour is better, or a half teaspoon of corn starch. And then, of course, about a liter of water. And 2 cans of tomatoes. I don't know if I said that or not, but that's your basic one. Then get creative. Experiment. Throw this, that, and the other in it. And it's always to taste. And it's what you like and what you think you're going to enjoy. Keep in mind, salt-wise, don't keep adding salt. When it reduces down, you're going to have that salt still in there. So don't go crazy with your seasonings at the beginning, especially if you put oregano and other stuff like that at the beginning. You're not going to taste it towards the end. Salt you will taste. You can always put more in later, but you can't take it out. So what I recommend is boiling it for like 4 hours and then tasting it throughout and within towards the end. And then once you taste it towards the end, if it's not quite salty enough, put a little more in it, or put the salt on it when you serve it. I also like to put like some lime juice in there, and a half teaspoon of raw brown sugar, not the baking one, but non-bleached sugar, or a teaspoon, and some vinegar. I like to put a little red wine vinegar in there, but the sugar is to off balance the citrus. I hope you guys try this and like it, enjoy it, and I encourage everyone to blog and throw me their little secret dashes to what they put into their chili, y'all. And there you go. This has been Cooking with Nap Dog. And there you go. All right, y'all have a good one. See ya!